out and it's not humid. So anyway, I'm Elizabeth Bridey for those of you who haven't met me before, and we're delighted that you're here. Okay, now Jennifer, can I go to the next slide or do you have to do it? Oh, there it
I'll
goes.
I'll need to do it. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So welcome everyone, whether you are here for the first time or whether you are here on a regular basis, we're glad to have you. Okay, next slide. All right, so we have quite a full agenda today. So first we want to recognize Ryle Nolan, and we'll have more to say about that in a moment. And then we're going to have an anniversary party. This is our fifth anniversary this month. So we'll have a few things to say about that. Next up, we'll talk about the Career Ready Department Forum that we held. This was the inaugural forum for selected departmental advisory initiative programs, and we'll explain more about that if you're unfamiliar with it. Fourth on the agenda, we have Alex Crampton here from Marquette University, and she's going to talk to us about the class project that she and her students worked on this past spring. Then we have a call for one more class project to start up in fall. Next up will be University of Denver. They've put together quite an interesting careers and internships page on their website, and I thought it might be worthwhile for you to see that. Next, we have the NAMLA Club from the Netherlands that's got some new and interesting initiatives that they're developing, and Rosalie will talk about that. Finally, we'll have a discussion that will be led by Victoria Danner, and then a few updates. So that's it for the agenda, and we're going to start right now with recognizing Ryle. So I think that at least in American culture, we're not great at recognizing people as a regular thing. I mean, occasionally we'll remember to say something nice to someone, compliment them on what they've been doing, but I wanted to take a little bit of time to recognize Ryle. And the reason why is because he has been part of Acorn since the beginning as a co-chair, and that's now 5 years. He is experiencing some health issues, and so he's going to be stepping back a bit from Acorn, although I understand he still reads all of his emails and he's probably doing lots of other things as well. But at any rate, this seemed like a good time to mention it. So, towards that end, I wrote a blog post, which I encourage you all to read. It came out on May 18th. You can see the hot link there. And um, in writing this blog post, I went back through my notes to get a better understanding of what specifically he did that helped promote Acorn and move it to the place where it's at today. So there were three things that stood out in my mind, and hopefully I didn't miss anything. But the first was the fact that he basically just said, you know, everything begins with research. And the first study that he undertook was a study of practitioners. It was basically using a Delphi survey where he asked just two questions. One question was to these practitioners was what was missing from your education in anthropology that would have helped you get a job? And the answers can be seen on the chart on the left-hand side, and you'll see the big hitters are students weren't learning about networks or the importance of making connections. They hadn't got a clue on how to search for a job, and they really weren't sure what their skills were. And then finally, they didn't have a way to translate anthropology to ordinary people. So those were the three big things, but there are plenty of other items that they listed as well. And then the second question was, what was missing from your education that would have helped you do your current job? And look what shows up, methods. That's what people said was the most critical thing. And it's interesting because in many universities in the US, methods is not even taught. I just got off the phone with someone who made that comment as well. So, with this important groundbreaking work, Ryle was then able to plan out a bunch of things that he thought would be important to do. So that's one area. The second area that he contributed enormously to was this model that you see in the center of the slide. We call it the Career Ready Curriculum, or colloquially, the wheel. And the wheel at the center has the kind of core anthropology training that you will find in anthropology departments generally. But what he added to this were the spokes in the wheel. And you'll notice that there are 12 different areas that are not typically taught in anthropology programs, such as the ethics of practice down at the bottom left, or promotion of change, or being able to communicate with diverse audiences. You know, anthropology students are taught to use, for lack of a better term, just anthro speak. It's, very specialized jargon, which means something to other anthropologists, but is not interpretable by anyone else outside of anthropology. So at any rate, this career ready curriculum model then led to two other things, or I should say, has served as a framework for two other things. The first is the Departmental Advisory Initiative. This is a service that ACORN offers in which we travel to an academic institution and we're with them for 2 to 3 days, helping them understand what their strengths and weaknesses are and what kind of a career readiness plan they will be able to create based on those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then after we leave campus, we work with them over the next 12, 14 months to implement the plan that they said they wanted to do. So that uses the Career Ready curriculum as its backbone. The other way in which we use this Career Ready curriculum is on a newer initiative, which we call the Practice Academy. This is in progress. It is not completed, but you take a look at those 12 different areas in the spokes, and 5 of them have been drafted as essentially 1-hour workshops. So the whole point of this is that professors will not have to do all of the background research on any of those 12 things, though they may know something about some of those areas, but instead we'll provide them with PowerPoint slides, a set of resources they can use, and other materials. So it's almost like an off-the-shelf offering. Will be Once we have all of them drafted and reviewed and edited, then we plan to test them to make sure they're halfway decent. And then we will make the necessary changes and then release them for use by professors wherever they are located. Okay, next one. And this is the last big area that I wanted to highlight in terms of Ryle's contributions. It was Jennifer who came up with the idea of creating these how-to tools. But Ryle jumped right in and he came up with a few of these tools, which are very poignant, very helpful. So for job seekers or students, what can you do with a career in anthropology? And another one explaining anthropology to people in your life. And there are plenty of other ones that he worked on too, but these are the two most popular. And then for instructors and departments, a big one is boosting anthropology enrollments because we all know that people are um, um, really that the departments and programs across the US are really starting to suffer declining enrollments for a variety of reasons. And so this tool gives you a ton of different ideas that you can consider to see if they would work in your setting. And then there's another one on your local ecosystem and using, focusing on that ecosystem to expand connections. So, when I think about what Ryle has done and how Acorn has benefited, we would absolutely not be the group that we are today without his brain power, without his literally constant work, both research, writing, analysis, connecting with various people. Working in various departments on the DAI program, et cetera. So, Ryle, I just want to say personally, thank you for all you've done for us. We're hoping that when and if you get to feeling better, which we hope is soon, that you'll be able to come back in some capacity and continue the work.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is a little overwhelming. I didn't realize until yesterday. I pulled up what was it, Instagram. I was looking for some anti-Trump jokes or something, and the first thing that came up was my face, in a photograph, and it was Elizabeth's blog. And I thought, what the hell? And I read this thing, and I said to Christine, "Look at this," and she read it. So thank you so much. It's very clever. I just want to make two or three points. One. Every goodbye ain't gone. I'm not leaving. I'm just sort of taking a little time out here. That's one thing. But the second and third things are this. All of what Elizabeth has talked about are works in progress. None of this is definitive. Everything is we were in an emergent field, if you see what I mean, trying to figure out what to do with all the things we know in anthropology. And so this is a start, it's not a finish. And the last thing and the most important thing is none of this that you just saw would have been possible without the collaboration of a whole bunch of highly gifted people, all volunteers working together to do this. None of this is an individual effort. And I think that's really important because when we set Acorn up, we very deliberately said we're not going to go with the academic model of isolated researchers working on their own things, and sort of having their own little niches all by themselves. It's going to be collaborative because that's the way practice works. And I think we've proven that we can get some very creative stuff out of people working together. So thank you very much. It's been a privilege. And I won't say any more, but thanks.
Brown.
Yeah, well, thank you. Go ahead.
I also appreciate you a lot. And you perfectly set me up for our next section here, which is to celebrate our fifth anniversary of ACRN, or you could say birthday. I did add a cake here in the next slide. Um, so it has been 5 years since we launched this group. And what have we accomplished? So, you already got a preview on some of the research projects that we've completed, as well as you are all a part of the community that has been created with this focus on career readiness. And we've been able to help anthropology students and anthropologists think differently about anthropology's value and relevance in the world. And how do we do it? So we've got 104 tools, 2 books, 7 journal articles, 95 blog posts, and growing. And we also hosted that the 2022 conference at Fordham University. We've advised 18 anthropology programs through the Departmental Advisory Initiative and 17 client-based class projects. And we have 48 practitioners represented in our Speakers Bureau. And many of those have been engaged as guest speakers in classes and maybe other venues as well. All right. And we want to extend our thanks and appreciation to all that have sustained the network. So this includes everybody on this call. I'll also add to this list here too, everyone that served as a working group lead during that first year as we were thinking about, what are the directions that we want to go into. But big thanks to Matt Arts, our webmaster. Our website would not be possible without him, as well as many other websites that you rely on, if you didn't know. Also, Priscilla, our blog editor. Those 95 blogs, that's quite an accomplishment. Suanna Selby Crowley's been advising us around our social media approach as a part of the media and communications team. We also have received sponsorships from the Society for Applied Anthropology. I guess I'll add the COPA of the Society for Applied Anthropology and the American Anthropological Association to provide awards to the programs that we work with through the Departmental Advisory Initiative, as well as other association partners. So the SFAA, AAA, NAPA, WAPA, AAN, and AP.
And I should have mentioned NAMLA.
Yeah, NAMLA, and I guess we could throw GAP in there. There's a very
Yeah.
long list.
Yeah.
We could probably keep going. A lot of A's. And then we've had 17 interns that we've worked with. I'm not going to read all of these, but they've contributed in a number of different ways. For example, Zahira was one of the editors on our first book, and Irene was also an editor on our second book. JJ helped develop quite a few of the tools. Priyankshi helped us do a landscape analysis. Emma, there we got Mara, have helped us out with social media. Megan did a series of focus groups. Chloe also helped out with social media, as is Audrey right now. And I know some of these projects are also ongoing too. And Christian has stepped up too to really help support Matt in maintaining our website. And also a big thank you to everyone that served as a reviewer. If you weren't familiar with it, all of our tools are peer reviewed. So there's usually been, I think anywhere, what you said, like 3 to 5 people have read each of those tools and given feedback before they were published. All of our departmental advisory facilitators, so we've expanded the team for that outside of myself, Ryle, and Elizabeth to include several other people, including Susan, who's on this call. And all of the folks that have written a blog and those represented in the Speakers Bureau. And many, many more. All right. So I will pass it back to Elizabeth.
Okay, so one of the things that we felt was important was to try to capture lessons that we are learning from the Departmental Advisory Initiative. And so we've held the very first one on April 27th. We've got quite a few programs that are part of DAI or have been part of DAI. In fact, there's about 20. And so we didn't want to have, too many at this first one. So we picked 5. These are the 5 that basically got through everything first and have completed the program. And in tiny font down on the right-hand side, you can see the questions that we asked them to think about before they came to the forum. Okay, now go to the next slide. So as a result of that, we ended up talking quite a bit initially about what do we do about enrollment issues, getting more majors in, how do we try to deal with the public relations problem that anthropology as a discipline has, at least in the eyes of the public. And finally, into risk management. How do we help departments prevent department closures? So you can see some of the points that came up in the course of this discussion, which lasted about an hour and a half. Um, Lots of ways in which enrollment can or number of majors can be increased. I think perhaps one of the most effective ways is if there's a way for a university to, if it offers gen ed requirements and get more courses, as many as possible from anthropology as part of those gen ed requirements. That seems to be the easiest and the fastest route to getting majors. Um, Moving on to the PR problem, uh, there was a wonderful op-ed article that came out in the Washington Post a couple of weeks ago, written by Thurka Sangaramurti, who's at American University, and she basically talked about how anthropology had changed her life, and that all this talk in public spaces about how what a useless major it is, and you can't make any money at it, and all this stuff. She just shot down point by point by point. If anybody needs a copy of that article, I'm happy to send it. Just put a comment in the chat and leave your email, and I'll be happy to send you a PDF of the article. And then in terms of risk management, one of the questions that I was interested in getting at after the five programs talked about what lessons they had learned is, how can we improve risk management for universities given the current political climate? And in asking that question, I wanted to get at how well connected universities currently are with their state legislatures, with local and regional media, whether it's TV, radio, newspaper, or other kinds of news outlets. How well connected are they with their alums? I mean, these were the kinds of things that I was thinking of. And it turns out that at least the programs that were there are not terribly well connected. There was an exception in terms of outreach to the media by one of the programs, but as a regular thing, anthropology departments just don't do this stuff. Probably because they've never needed to do it or did it in the past, for whatever set of reasons. But it seems to me that we can all take a lesson from St. Cloud State, which is in Minnesota. Just as I was getting to the Society for Applied Anthropology meetings, I got an email from the chair, and they had been one of our DAI programs. We had just visited with them in February, and they were told their program was going to be shut down. And so we just went into letter writing mode very, very quickly, and suggested that they contact their alums, their legislators, their city council, their this, their that. And within the span of about a week and a half, they had gotten 60 letters together. Those went directly to the president, who was the person making the final decision a week after the department was informed. He still has not made that decision. So in other words, it was great. The letter writing campaign seems to have at least stalled the decision or shifted the thinking in his mind on the decision. But do we really need to see this happening again and again and again and again? So how do we improve risk management for these universities? It's an excellent question. I don't know that we have all the answers, but I think by tapping into possible connections in the community, that is one way to try to build strength and build connections through the university to the surrounding area. Next slide. Okay, Alex, you're up.
Hi, it's good to be here. Okay, so what happened was I kind of spontaneously created this class. So originally, what happened is I kind of inherited the anthropology program because in my department, the last full-time faculty member dedicated to the anthropology program retired last spring. So um, I was kind of left. I mean, and I don't want to see the program go. I mean, the path of least resistance for the department, which has 3 other programs, is for the faculty to all kind of vote by majority to get rid of it. So, so this project was an opportunity to invite students into this question. And actually, through this project, I think that was the main thing, the main sort of takeaway that the acting dean and the department chair and that I got out of this is that the fact that we just don't normally include students in program assessment. We do for accreditation purposes, we do this program assessment. In my department, we're very cynical about it and sort of get it done. But we don't actually engage the students in thinking about it. At the same time, there were so many students that wanted to work on this that I turned it into a class, a research methods class. And to your point, one of the things that I learned is that we don't generally teach research methods in the anthropology program. So the question was, how can we use anthropology research methods to then evaluate the program with an emphasis on the student perspective? And this was used as a capstone course because due to staffing problems, the anthropology students were taking the same capstone as the sociology capstone, which is taught by a sociologist who does ethnography, but is not trained as an anthropologist per se. So, and the way that she runs the class, the students end up with a research proposal, but they don't actually do research very much. And I know I want to be quick. Okay. So, how to do this. So I tried to set it up as kind of a classic anthropology research project. I mean, I basically taught them the way I was taught, which is to do this very inductively and kind of work as you go. So we started off with some ethnographic research on higher ed, so they get a sense of what that looks like and sort of how to kind of shift from being a student immersed in a program to actually stepping outside enough to make this an anthropological kind of project. And then they also read some of the methods that I use that are part of articles that I've written, where it kind of shows how that research process developed over time. And then quickly it shifted into, okay, now how are we going to do this? And I tried to make this as much as possible student driven, but of course it turned out the students had so little research experience that it was hard for them to, I mean, they needed a certain amount of direction. So they were really understandably, they were really into studying, what is the student experience of the anthropology program. And then I needed to bring in a little bit of structure and direction about, okay, the administration also looks at this program a little bit differently than how students do. So how are we going to collect the data that's going to be most meaningful to them? And since I'm at a Jesuit institution, that also included, can you speak to your clients about the program in the language that they use of the university strategic plan, the Jesuit apostolic preferences, because, in all of their marketing stuff, they always kind of align it in that way. And then I also found and provided articles that are assessing anthropology and higher ed, including an article that was more or less titled like, we did everything we could to save the program and it got cut anyway, and here are lessons learned. And then the focus, I mean, as Elizabeth promised, there's nothing quite like having real stakes. And I think that's one of the things that students like the most is they really, the anthropology students are aware that the program needs help. And they really valued an opportunity to have their voice heard in some way. So they were really into this presentation that they gave for the acting dean and the department chair. And the dean was so excited about it that it turns out that the previous dean had created a group of alumni that are going to be somewhat for the purposes of fundraising, but are also for the purposes of, staying engaged and interested. And they were also really impressed. And they said, and we want an update, which is great because now I'm on the hook to provide this update to the dean and to the alums so that when I go back to my department as the only anthropologist in faculty meetings, it's not just me as a person on my own, right? I have this accountability to others. So it's, I would say the project worked really well. The students really enjoyed. I mean, the other thing is that they were both directed as to what to do, but also invited to carve out a little piece of the project that was there. So what do they want to dig into? So one person was a bioanth major who really wants to go into genetics research. So he was trying to connect the dots specifically about anthropology and, a health sciences career trajectory. And there was another person who was really interested in effectively what is applied, a broader question about applied work and internships. And does the university help connect anthropology majors to internships and to career readiness essentially or not? So it was also just it was nice that I could give the students their own little piece that they kind of had a little bit of ownership over as well. And then I was like, this is a 3 credit class, so I need to make sure you learned you learned things academically as well as in terms of this presentation. So for their final exam, and it was an individual oral exam where I gave them questions that were based on, okay, now that you've got this data, can you revisit some of those ethnographies about higher ed and kind of connect the dots? What would you say then about, analyzing things, as well as the career readiness application piece? And then finally, like, what feedback do you have about, like, if this class were to be taught again as a research methods course, what would you keep the same? What would you do differently? So again, just continually trying to like give them the experience of working collaboratively, give them the experience of like, why are you doing anthropology and how is it useful to something that you care about? And
Sounds great.
yeah,
Do we have time for questions or no?
I'd love questions. Yeah.
Maybe like
Yeah,
one. And
yeah.
I'll call it Kate in the chat said she got to do kind of the reverse version of your experience as a taking over the sociology class.
Oh, really? I'm reading it now.
Half
Yeah.
of students in our program have to take methods. And if we can't offer the methods, they are still incorporated into class activities. They can do an original research project, and the sociology students could not, which is sad because at Parkside, we've always focused on community-based learning and methods, but we're
Yeah.
so understaffed that the sociology profs weren't teaching them methods anymore.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
it's that Marquette and Parkside are facing, of course, the same issues. And my suggestion is we should do a summer ethnographic field work thing every other summer.
yeah, yeah.
I've been
No, I'll
trying
be
to
in
get that
touch.
going for a long time, but I always had to compete with the archaeologist for student time. But
Oh.
if we've got a common lack, we should be helping each other with that. It's not like we're very far away from each other.
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds great. Thank you.
It would be fun.
Awesome.
And in the corner there is one of the students took well, I didn't do enough with, I wish I had done more in encouraging them to get pictures as well as text. But one of the students did she drew a picture of the Anthropology 1001 class that she was in, and then we included some snippets from the participant observation was a little bit limited, so they were basically observing anthropology in other classes. But that was the stuff that really got people's attention because, of course, they were writing what that was important to them. So that included like, what are all these students doing? Are they paying attention? No, they're not. So what are they doing? That kind of thing. So it was kind of fun. They're mostly, A/honors students. So I think it was helpful for them to see more of the sort of what the professor's view is, right? When you try to take in the class as a whole and how the different students engage. But it also, there was one student in the group that wasn't an anthropology major, which I was really happy about because it helps with the sort of comparative method, right? And for their analysis and to make them more aware of how much they were in their own head sometimes when they're analyzing the program initially. But he's really very much worried about the economy and job market and connecting the dots and stuff like that. So he on his own was doing informal interviews. He just didn't think of it that way, where he's asking business people and asking people, well, what do you think? Like here's an argument I would make for why anthropology, is relevant. What do you think? So he was able to help the anthropology students to feel that, actually this is really relevant. And in fact, AI might make it more relevant because what AI can do is stuff that anthropologists are not focused on, and what AI can't do. I mean, in terms of cultural anthropology, there's a lot of the human elements, right? And how can you actually work with people in real time? And so, anthropology should provide that, and a field school should provide that.
Thank you. That's great.
Great.
All right. So on that note, if you've got a class project that you might want help with, so you can join this wonderful array of company, including Marquette here. We do have one class project already planned for the fall with Tara, is it Dubell at
Yeah.
USF, with her class of professional development in applied anthropology. And they're working to identify a client and the problem that they're facing. But that means that we have one more opening for a professor that could work with us for a class-based project. So you should be able to find Elizabeth's contact info on the website. We can probably drop it in the chat here too, but feel free to reach out to her, or even just drop your email in the chat and let us know that you want to connect. And we are looking for either an undergrad or a graduate course for our fall semester. All right. Next up, I'm going to pass it over to Alejandro. I know he was here.
Yes, I'm
There
here.
you are. Okay, good.
Hi, everybody. Just here to share the web page that we recently created for the anthropology department at the University of Denver, and so this came as a direct result from our participation with the DAI initiative. And now I cannot see my slides.
Oh, sorry, I'll go back.
It's okay. Right. So it took us about 3 months, and something that was key was that the department chair is the one who took this on. She's Bonnie Clark. She's currently teaching. That's why I'm covering it for her. So we were able to create I would say a very good skeleton for the web page, and we are currently adding more details and expanding from that skeleton. And there are some lessons that we would like to share with you on the next slide. One is that at the beginning we had some ideas of how much control we had over our website. Our experience told us that there was a lot of bureaucracy involved, and that we were not going to be able to make the changes we wanted. But Bonnie asked around, and it turned out that we had more access to making changes than we thought. And she was also able to find some already existing examples in our university. So that was also very, very helpful. The other lesson was that it was crucial to have good supportive partners. For the most part, for us, it was the dean's office at the College of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. They were very supportive, and also the college media and marketing team. They have been extremely supportive and encouraging us. They also had sometimes better ideas than ours. And so by working with them, we were able to, I think, make a better webpage. And then we, at the beginning, were maybe thinking about it in ways that were not that helpful, but very, very soon we realized that integrating what we are already doing, things that we are organically just doing every quarter, was maybe the best way to go about it. And so that's what we've been trying to do. Like, for example, we do a lot of work study based work on all sorts of things, and we were not thinking about that as something that we could include. And that's actually how a lot of our students get hands-on experience with us. So now I will be happy to show you around, and we'll see how that works. Jennifer, are we showing the page, or should I share my screen? No. What should we do? Oh, there you go.
Does that work?
Yes, perfect. All right. And so I don't know how to do this now, because I guess you will maybe just scroll down.
Tell me where to go.
Yeah. Well, so we focused on professionalization networks and work study opportunities as two main areas that we wanted to highlight. There are some links there that we maybe will not click on for now. We included a couple of tools from Acorn as professional tools that people have access through our web page. Then for now, we have highlighted some of the professional experience that students can get through the Museum of Anthropology, but we are working on adding also similar stuff for some labs we have. We have an ethnography lab, we have a paleo diet lab, and then there's the archaeology. There's a couple of archaeology projects that we normally have. So we are working on adding that to the page as well. And then we have started a list of internship opportunities. So we have 2 currently, and today I sent out a third one that they will be adding to the web page. And so we are hoping to keep adding there. There's just some organizations that for many years have been common have had common opportunities for our students for internships and other types of hands-on involvement. Let's see. I think that now we could scroll down maybe a little bit further, and yeah, I think that maybe the why study anthropology would be a good one to go to. So there we have basically combined some, I guess, information that comes from some of the Acorn resources with more specific to us and specific to our alumni resources. And I can see how maybe the font looks very small now. But there are... Basically, we list some real life examples of what our alumni are doing, and we have, yes, just specific organizations. There's some profiles that the university has put together for some of our alumni. There's this film that was put together by one of our alumni too that got some awards. And if you scroll down, I think that we will get to some student profiles. I mean, alumni profiles, maybe. Actually, not.
I think it's on the next page, back over.
Yeah, so I guess maybe
here.
alumni
Is it connected
success
with alumni?
stories could be one. Yeah. Go for it, Jennifer.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, let's see what. And so here, basically, to keep it simple, I think we for now have 3 students, and the links go to their LinkedIn page, and we are working on expanding this. Then these are the profiles that I was referencing before. These are just profiles that the university marketing people have put together over the past few years. So we just took advantage of that and added them here. There is also this video profile for Lindsay Penn that we added in there. And then a list of where the career paths that our students have taken. And let's see. And I think that may be it. There's somewhere in there, there's a couple of opportunities for people to join our DU Anthropology LinkedIn group that we created. We have now about 100 members, and we're still working on expanding that. And so that's it. We like it. We will have. I am teaching this quarter a class on human-centered design, and one of our master students taking the class is well, she will be writing the report for the client-based project that we're working on, but she already told me that she would like to work on another project by herself. So we will have her basically apply what she has learned in this class to our website, so that she can interview some like different people, like some faculty, some current students, and some prospective students, to see how the website is working for each of us, and see which types of improvements we can make, informed by different types of users.
Thank you. All right, Rosalie.
Yes. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's strange in this meeting. I cannot see myself or anybody else except for who is speaking. Uh, Interesting Zoom settings. I hope you can all hear me okay. It's a bit late here, so I'm a bit sleepy. But my name is Rosalie and I live in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And yeah, Elizabeth asked me to come talk a little bit about the NAMLA Club today, but I think let me just back up a few sentences about what NAMLA is. It's a little, sometimes we call it an educational startup. We're still waiting for the profit 6 years in, but it is technically a company. And we started it with my co-founder in 2020. And so we are in some ways a little bit the Dutch version of Acorn, maybe, because my co-founder and I were both already working in jobs, a few years after university, but we were still having lots of questions about like, okay, the ethics that we were taught in anthropology, how to do proper research. Our professors at the University of Amsterdam were always adamant that if you haven't done research for at least 3 months, then you cannot make any statements about what reality is like. And then we found ourselves in these work environments where, we had a week or a day to give some very brilliant opinion to our bosses. And so we had a lot of these questions, and we actually, before we ever had NAMLA, we started a meetup for other applied anthropologists at the University of Amsterdam from 2019. And then in 2020, we built a course for current students, current graduates who were looking to find their first steps in the world of work. We did like a little kind of project in a week or in 2 weeks, so that just people have a portfolio project. But this spring, it feels like there is more urgency maybe than ever before. And this is not just in the US. I know you have a particular political climate going on, but I think just in general, in the other continents in the world also, we see a lot of neoliberalization in universities. And so there's a lot of departments, anthropology departments, that are under pressure now and that are asked, maybe in some cases for the first time, when I'm speaking about like Northern Europe, to actually justify what is the value for society for these departments. And we can debate long and short whether that is fair or right or just, but they are in that situation. And we are always in a very pragmatic stance at NAMLA. And there are a lot of professional practicing PPA anthropologists, as Kathleen Crane calls this so wonderfully, practicing anthropologists out in the world that are experiencing huge shifts in their work environments, whether it is in development, whether it is in user research. There's a lot happening in the world, and a lot of companies and organizations are fluctuating in the amount of employees that they have. So it somehow feels like a bit of a crazy time. Sometimes I see these like, I saw that University College London is throwing a one-day conference in a few weeks that I think it's called the emergency of anthropology or something like that, but the way that they're framing it is a little bit like, is this the end? Help, what are we gonna do? And then there's other people that are responding very positively, right? Or very optimistically. And I just kind of decided to start a club. And so I've come to talk to you about this club. Thank you for bearing with me for this long introduction. So the
No,
way that it works,
Rose,
yeah.
sorry, Rosalie, you'll have to finish up in a couple of minutes because we
That's
still have some other things.
Of course, that's no problem. So the way that it works is we already offered a free newsletter every 2 weeks with some world news from the world of applied anthropology. Sometimes we're just promoting events, but we're also now trying to include more like thoughts and thought leaders, like what's happening, what seems to be alive in the world of applied anthropology. This is free. But then if you want to support the project, you also get access to a Discord server, which is kind of like, imagine like a forum from the 90s if you're not familiar with Discord. It has threads, different channels where you can talk about different topics. So we have one about jobs, we have one about entrepreneurship, we have one about resources. And the goal of this whole project is really to figure out this moment together. And so we'd really like it if people wanted to join it, whether you work in academia, whether you want to, whether you're studying and looking for what comes next, but also if you are working and maybe in a turbulent field. Yeah, let's combine resources, combine strengths, and I think we're stronger in community. So yeah, Acorn has been our partner for quite a while now, and they were immediately behind us in this club. And yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to talk about it.
Thank you. Okay, Victoria.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Victoria Danner. I am a medical anthropologist and applied anthropologist. Elizabeth very kindly invited me here today to tell you a little bit about my story. So I'm going to go quick. I know we don't have a whole lot of time. But just to tell you a little bit about myself and sort of to discuss my journey of sort of experimenting and rebranding, going through the job search as an anthropologist and as a project manager. I earned my master's of applied anthropology from the University of Maryland and focused in medical anthropology, where my main interest was in understanding how patient and caregiver experiences improved health policy and healthcare services and research. And the majority of my career has focused on helping organizations understand that people's lived experiences when it comes to their health and healthcare are not just information, it's data. And it's essential to designing better programs, policies, and services. I'm also a certified project management professional. I've been so for 8 years. I'm also currently a Lean Six Sigma Greenbelt candidate, and my Greenbelt project is focused on improving the intake process for individuals with intellectual and physical disabilities who need housing support. I've worked across federal, state, and nonprofit sectors, and I currently work for the Common Health Action Network, which is where I currently am right now. So you can go to the next slide. So how did I get here? Well, fun story. Like a lot of people this past year, I was impacted by the DOGE cuts. And even though as someone with a very tenured career, with a very impressive career, I was not left untouched. So what did I do when it came time for me to search for a new job? Well, I really had to rethink how I branded myself when I went searching for jobs. And I found out very quickly that when people were looking at my resume, when they were looking at my career, they weren't all that interested in looking at me as an anthropologist. They were more interested in my other skill sets. Even if they said they wanted a social scientist or someone with a qualitative background, they actually asked me more about my project management experience. They wanted to know if I could manage a project, if I could manage a team, can I manage a timeline, a budget, etc. Can I communicate with stakeholders? So what I had to do was I had to learn how to bring anthropology in a way that answered those questions while also gaining the employer's interest. So for me, having my project management certification helped me rebrand because it gave me a language that employers always understood. So for those of you that don't know, having a PMP is something that's recognized across many fields. And I'm not trying, not just healthcare, but across like IT, business, marketing, etc. And it gave me a way to talk about things that employers often listened for. So risk adjustment, dependencies, timelines, budgets, mitigation, stakeholder and client engagement. So these were the words that employers listened for when they were trying to figure out whether I could manage a project or clients or different things, in addition to things like qualitative research and health policy. So it was a way for me to frame my medical anthropology and health policy expertise into something that employers instantly recognized. And another concept that really helped me, as someone who also has done some work in marketing, was a concept known as WIFM, or what's also known as what's in it for me. So in business and marketing, for those of you who've worked in it, WIFM often means, or WIIFM, means thinking about why your audience should care about what it is you're saying. And that's something that a lot of anthropologists struggle with when we're talking about our anthropology. Well, how do I get the other person to care about what I'm talking about? So in an interview or talking with an employer, it means actively listening to what the employer needs and then framing your experience as an anthropologist as part of the solution. So I remember an interview I was in where an employer said, we want to build a network of patients and caregivers to serve on an advisory panel. So what I said was, in the interview, I can help your team develop an outreach and engagement strategy using a patient-centered research framework so you can recruit the right participants and use their perspectives meaningfully. That was still anthropology. That was still using ethnography, but it's an anthropology concept translated into the employer's mindset and also centered around their outcomes. So the lesson that I learned on this journey is that people may not know that they need an anthropologist until they talk to one or until they hire one. And just to bring that point home, at my current job with Common Health Action, I was in a meeting where I was actually discussing methodology for a qualitative research project that I'm working on now. And my boss's boss said, I actually want to do some kind of in-person observation, and this is almost word for word, in-person observation of the participants. I want us to follow them around in their natural environment and understand how they experience their job and ask them questions, like in the hospital, like watching them. Is there a method like that? Victoria, do you know a method like that? and I said to her, I think you might be talking about participant observation. And she asked me to explain it. So I explained to her what it was. So, and how it could benefit the project. And she goes, that sounds great. Let's write it into the methodology. I want you to do that right now. And that moment really stuck with me because it showed me that people might not always ask for an anthropologist, but they may ask for what an anthropologist does. So I say to a lot of people, and I say to young anthropologists, to keep your training in your back pocket. You may not always lead, you may lead with project management, you may lead with Lean Six Sigma, you may lead with IT, public health, marketing, communications, policy, it goes on and on and on. But there will be moments where someone needs a method or a framework or a way of thinking that is very human, very culture-centered, or very system-centered that only an anthropologist can ask. And you will always have that to pull out, and that's where you get to show your true value. It's just how do you frame it? And that's where you get to really shine. And I always say anthropologists are the chameleons of the work world. Like we can really adapt to any situation. It's just how do you frame it and how do you show your impact? So that's why I'm here to share my story with you guys today. It's just how do you rebrand and how do you reframe what it is that you do and what you love to show the employer or the interviewer how you can benefit in, like what's there with them. So thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Elizabeth, do we want to have any discussion? Do you want me to move through the updates really quick and then open up?
Yeah, why don't we just go through the updates and we'll come back to the discussion.
Okay, we'll make these pretty quick. All right. Well, congratulations to the 5 juniors that won the Ina Rosenthal Uri Mentorship Award and their mentors. You can see them listed here. I believe this mentorship program works where they get paired with an academic and a practitioner, so they see both sides of that world. And this is, I believe, through the AAA, correct?
Yes.
All right. Next, we are always looking for more blog posts. So if you've got a topic, if you've got a student that might have a topic, feel free to submit. We've got Priscilla's email here, or feel free to reach out to any of us to get directed the right way. Next, don't forget about our new book. This has been published through Ingram Spark, so it means you can find it through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or any other retailer of books. I will apologize. I'm still working on the EPUB. Ingram Spark's really tricky on that one. But you can get your hard copy for $25 from any of these locations. And this book is a compilation of our tools intended for instructors and includes a lot of the methodologies and approaches that we use as a part of our departmental advisory initiative. So if you don't think you're in a position where you may be able to have us come visit you, this is a great place to start if your department's trying to work through some of those activities. Next, we also have our Career Tools for Anthropology workbook. So this workbook is intended for students as well as anthropology graduates, either immediately after graduating or maybe further down the line as you're going through a career transition like Victoria went through. And this book is a compilation of our job seeker tools, and you can purchase it on Amazon for $10. And this one does have an ebook version as well. And just a reminder that our next meeting will be Thursday, July 16th at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and stop the recording, but I think we can hang on for a couple of minutes if people have questions.